The two biggest fears in the world are the fear of poverty and the fear of death. I think the fear of death is a bigger one. And one of the interesting things that ties these two things together is that they're uncertain. You don't know when you're going to die, and you don't know how rich you get, even with whatever work you want to put in. Yeah, we have systems that can get you wealthy or rich, but there's still levels. There are people that put in hard work and they're rich, and they're not as rich as people that do not put in as much hard work, if you get what I mean. So it's uncertain. It can't be, exactly measured, just like so many other things in life. And that's why, when I hear people talk about the forex market and talk about it in a sense of, oh, there's no certainty, it's just gambling. I'm like, what do you do that is not gambling? All right. But I think people are just comfortable with the life that gives you something for the bare minimum that you offer. And high income skills like maybe you trying to be a footballer, a basketballer, maybe a top artist, and whatever that is best in your field that can actually get you, the type of wealthy money, right? That thing is an uncertain game. It's a game where you have to, give it your all. It's a game where you have to demand, and the reason I say this is because of something that you probably have heard a whole lot of times, which is systems, right? Follow your system is what you have heard, right? And I'm sure we both would agree on this that when you are about to take that trade following your system, it just seems so freaking uncertain. It's like, is this really going to go in my direction or not? Right. And I want to charge you to tweak that thinking into it doesn't matter if it goes right or wrong. I'm just going to follow the system. I'm just going to do whatever the system says is correct. Like just that, right? And this is Asia series, and I will just be running through my Asia session, right? The mood that I am in right now is demanding results for myself, right? And I've been talking about this recently because I think it's important, right? There is the trader self of you that's just starting out, that's just being an amateur, coming up, right? And just wants to, take the trades that shows up to you. But there's also the you that has grown in the skill, that understands a bit of things, that now know what your system looks like and hunts for it. Right. The expert doesn't wait for opportunities come to them. They actually go and hunt for them. So that you is what I'm challenging, is what I want you to bring out, is what I'm challenging in myself also. And it is going into the sessions that I trade and seeking for my system and taking them with appropriate risk. Again, appropriate risk, because that's what keeps you in the game long term. So if you already certified how long you can stay long enough, right? You could still blow out, but if you can certify you staying long enough, which is actually paying attention to risk management, then the opportunities are here for you to take, right? And thinking about them in the sense that this one doesn't work doesn't mean there isn't another one in the session or there isn't another one in the day, right? So I got in this session, and this is happening, quite frequently. I come into the session, I take a loss first, and then I have a big win, right? But let's look at this. Why was I thinking of sell? So I was selling from over here yesterday. Beautiful trade with the inner circle. I think I talked a little bit about that in my video yesterday. It was rushed, but I hope you guys got something from it. Right. I talked about, the sales from here. Price took me out. I was run out here. It was crazy, but I got in right immediately in because Asia's low, right? Asia's low is the reference point, and I was selling that. Right, we already ran lower, came back inside of the session. I have a good time also 10 a.m. So that was good. Right. So going into Asia's session, right? Going into 2 a.m. 2 a.m. is the macro for Asia. What do I mean by macro? Just like 3 o'clock, 3:15 is the macro to London session, 9:30 a.m. is the macro to New York session, 2 a.m. EST, right? Is or 2 a.m. Nigerian time, which is 21 o'clock EST, is the macro or the sweet spot you'd let me say, right, for Asia session. So that's where I like to look for my trades, right? And at that time, what has price done? We opened the day, right? The day opens at 10 a.m. Nigeria, 10 p.m. Nigerian time. We gap up and expand, right? So seeing this, I was looking at this as okay, high, low, and I still wanted to see sell side. I just still believe that, if you look at the daily time frame, sell side, right, was still on my mind. Right now, I'm not, this is not an outlook call, so we'll leave that for later. Right. But sell side was still on my mind because I marked out that fair value gap. And for fair value gaps, you want to think about the midpoint as the sweet spot. It's the most important part of every fair value gap. So at that time, we opened and I wanted to see price deep into the fair value gap. We already got to the fair value gap, which was the draw from Monday, if you watch the outlook, right? But I wanted to see a dip into the midpoint before we might start to see, any type of rally. Like a run below this low would be good for buy side, right? So if we go back to the lower time frame, what do we see? Right. So this was where we were. This is the midpoint of that fair value gap down here. So you see, we still have range. So going up inside of here, I wanted to sell. Right. The session starts 1 a.m. I'm watching this and going into 2 a.m. I start to see price rally. Right. I start to see price rally and I'm like, okay, good. We have high, low, premium. And this is it. Price has run out, sell side liquidity. We've had breaking market structure, step 2. Step 3, return back into premium. I took the sales. That's it. Do I know if these sales are going to be profitable? No, I don't. In fact, I'm okay with the sales being a loss because appropriate risk. But that doesn't mean that the idea of the day is done. So I took those sales and took, my first loss on the session. And then obviously the session was just fresh. So I continued. I have a crew now. We were 2 before, but it's slowly growing. We're now 3. We just sit down through the session 4 5 hours, 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. and we're looking at Asia session and we're taking trades, right? Autonomously, creatively, to get, as a group, whatever you want to call it. Right. And as I jumped on that call, because I wasn't on it as it started, but as I jumped on that call, then price was already coming back up here. And I'll show you something that's important for this call. So that these calls are not supposed to be long. One of the things that was important for this again is the run on London's high. When I was going to be trading on Wednesday, right? One of the things I was looking at was, a run on London's high would be good for sell side, but also Asia's low is a reference point. Guys, please remember that Asia's low is a reference point. Just as it's happening here, Asia's low is a reference point. Everything I'm talking about here, when you pick something that you think you like, go back into the charts and then spend time with it. That's what I want you to do, right? Spend time with it. When you spend time with it, you would be able to see the way you see it. And that's what is important for execution, because when it comes to execution, you don't know how it's going to end, right? But the way you see it is what allows you even engage the play, meaning that you understand it. So, you hearing it might be nice, might be good, right? But really where the juice is when you actually go back and find, this guy said Asia's low is a reference point. How many times did Asia's low send price lower or Asia's high send price higher? That's what I want you to do, right? So, but look at this, price took out not just Wednesday's high, right? We took out London's high. So we took out intraday highs in Wednesday, and then we took out London's high. If we go into a much more higher time frame, we would see that is a bearish order block. This is high, this is low, premium. If you look at what I'm showing you here, it's just like the trade I just took before. It's the same idea. I'm trading in the premium parts of a range. Doesn't mean it needs to work, but it's the best possible point. It has the highest probability to deliver the kind of results I want to see. Do you understand? Right? So right off the bat, I was taking that trade, and I'll go right where I was taking the trade so that I can kind of like give you, reasons to that. So the moment we took the trade, remember, we can't just, the moment we have trade ideation, which is the first step, run on buy side liquidity, gives us the idea of the trade. That's what trade ideation is, right? And the idea of the trade is now I am bearish, but that doesn't mean I can sell, right? Now, I can sell needs to come from what we call willingness, right? The willingness for price to go in the direction, which is breaking market structure. I can figure this out on a 1 minute, 5 minutes time frame, depending on what my trade ideation or how strong my trade ideation is. Like this one, very strong. We already rallied all the way inside of the session, putting buying influence on a chokehold. So many people are already buying on this inside of the session. And then we just took out the buy side liquidity. I'm ready to look for sales. So as soon as price, look at both candles here, break this low. As soon as that happened, right, that's what I wanted to see. right? I wasn't going to take chances to wait for price to return back into premium. Instead, I allow my stop loss to it. Now, this is where expertise, this is where, again, like I said, when you put in time into the charts, you start to see certain things and you're like, oh, if I waited for that fair value gap, I don't get it. And many times you don't get the fair value gap, and you beat yourself up, and then you do it over and over again, and you just learn to have the stop loss cover the fair value gap, so that even if price comes back into the fair value gap, you're still safe. Look at this, right? And the moment that happened, the trade started to go very beautifully, right? 100 pips, 150 pips already in at this point, and then it starts to reverse. But one of the interesting things, again, like I said in the beginning, is we have a power that is embedded in us as humans that takes practice to be able to expend. And that power is to be able to stand in the face of uncertainty, to be able to sit still when we don't know what is happening, because we do not know what will happen. So worrying about it just makes it a harder problem, because you now have two problems to face: the fact that you don't know, and now you are all confused and bothered about the fact that you don't know. So it's a feedback loop of hell that you don't even want to be in. So if the stops are already there, let it play out. And that was it, right? Price return back all the way to premium. Some people seeing this move would have put it to break even. And that's why you have not seen any type of progress yet, because you're always bringing to break even. You're always bringing to break even. And the good moves always just leave you by, because price many times threatens how well you actually understand what you are doing with moves like this. That's how you win. You win by having the courage and conviction to actually stick to the system. So look at this. Price returns back there and falls. Now, if you look at this again in grand scheme, it makes sense. High, low, premium. The same idea I was selling here, that was a loss. So it's like, there are going to be losses even when you have the right system applied to the chart, but you are looking at it over a large time horizon. Like, what is going to happen in 6 months if I continue doing this? What is going to happen in 20 trades if I continue doing this? Right. Let's go into the much more higher time frame so that we can see that clearly, right? So it runs lower, right? Closes through those fair value gaps, right? This is not another block that sends price. In fact, it's another block that sends price, but we're not bullish, so that fails. Which brings me to my second trade, right? The failure of that down close candle makes it a breaker, right? So again, this is another entry. If you look through the past 2-3 days, this has been happening, where the session starts out running lower, then runs higher like it's expanding, to heavens, and then falls and crashes to the ground, even to New York session, right? So again, I put in another small position here added to this one, and I was able to recover that loss and also get profits on the day, which is good, right? So it's 114, and that phase where I was last week. If you watch one of my videos, like I said, right, it's been a good Asia session. Price delivered. That's what we're going to title this video. How to stay in the face of uncertainty, 554 pips on gold. Yeah, 554 pips on gold. That's what we're going to title it. So 554 pips was already made. Do I want to start to grapple with price again to figure out, what trade I need to get into or what trade I don't need to get into? Well, it depends. If I see something good, I would. I think I would like a run above London's high to do that. It would just be too regurgitated, which price can just be repeatable like that. To have what happened yesterday, where we had run into Asia's low just like this, happen again. But trust me, if price is still bearish, because we still have that midpoint. This is still the midpoint here. We're just a little bit far away from it. We still have that midpoint open. But I think I would like that, we actually run out buy side liquidity, to just give us a little bit more juice. And maybe then I will be interested in selling. But for right now, I'm just going to be watching and looking at, what things do. Right. And guys, let me know if you love to this one. All right. Comment, like, subscribe. Appreciate you for always being here. Thank you so much. And I will see you in the next Asia series. Bless.